Hello and welcome to another Agent is In. This is episode 53, and it's a little bit special because today actually is Craig's 8-year anniversary of being with us. So, celebration for Craig. I have loved working with Craig before I came here, and I've loved working with him while he's been here. He definitely makes sure that we're exercising CFEngine in really interesting places, and always looking for opportunities where we can kind of do a little bit less work, which is like one of my favorite ways to automate at scale. Right? It's like identify that place that you can do a little bit less work. That usually works out a lot better than doing a lot more work, which requires more resources. So that kind of brings us to what Craig wanted to talk about today. So I want to turn it over to you, Craig.
Right.
What would you like to share with us?
I will share my screen.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about CFEngine and decomputing.
What is decomputing, Craig?
What's this?
What's decomputing? Maybe you could
Okay,
make
right. What is decomputing? Right. So it's something I've been thinking about for a while, kind of independent of anything else, where I want to be a part of the project that helps people use computer systems less. Not none necessarily, but less, because it's kind of out of control. Like the data centers aren't really all that great for us. Screens aren't really all that great for us. There's lots of talk about how, you want to limit your screen time. Okay, well, that's part of what I'm talking about. And recently, I happened to find via Mastodon this person named Dan McQuillan who wrote a thing about decomputing. So I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, what's this about? And so, challenges the expansionism of scale that AI brings. So he's pretty focused on AI. He wrote a book called Resist AI. That's not necessarily my point of view. I think that LLMs are good for some things, for sure. They're mathematical equations. They fit things to data and whatnot, so they totally work. Like for example, in Mission Portal for CFEngine, we have an AI integration to translate spoken words, so to speak, natural language into SQL queries. And it works. It's awesome. It totally helps. Which servers have an SSH port open? Like you could ask that without even knowing that it's port 22. So that's pretty cool. That helps people. All right, so that's kind of a idea about what that's about. So yeah, he kind of came up with this by writing this Resisting AI book, which actually, interestingly, he started out. So he's like an academic in England. He started out trying to write a book that was going to say like, oh well, here are the things that that AI is good at and that we should use it for. Unfortunately for him and maybe others, he didn't find a reason. He actually talked about that specifically in one interview that I watched. He's like, well, sorry, I didn't find any reasons to use it. So I'm not in that camp. So what is decomputing? It's computing within limits. There's a limits conference that I've attended several times. You can look it up, and it's just about making choices, about using a little less, or maybe a little bit more or less. Does that make sense? Less is more is less.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting. I mean, it's all over in CF. I mean, CFEngine, the map back to it. It's all over in the functions, right? Where you, for the longest time, in most of the cases where you have to supply the limit of how much data you're gonna read in or parse or whatever. For the
yes,
longest time, you had to supply it.
right.
And so, like, only relatively recently have, some of those things been changed that you could optionally not supply it and be lazy, and then it'll just slurp up the whole thing.
I mean,
But
it makes sense because, CFEngine started at a time when resources were less.
feasible.
Um, so one of the things that he talks about in terms of computing within limits is, there is a certain limited scheme in like he's focused on AI, of non-Western knowledge systems are not necessarily represented or they're not going to be the thing that, the LLM fits to your prompt, right? It's going to fit the kind of standard common sense average answer, right? So decomputing involves encouraging and allowing for, alternative points of view, um, limits on the biosphere in terms of like data centers, water usage, that kind of thing. Property, land. It takes land to have a data center. The technology itself, we can limit what we use when we use it. Like, every parent is talking about screen time for their kids. And the old adage is, the tech bros, so to speak, don't let their kids use technology at all because they know better or something like that. It's like, oh my God, do what I say, not what I do, especially if you give me money. And then scarcity. So like if you can only do something with, a web browser on a new computer to, interface with your bank, then that's a limiting factor. And so the idea with decomputing is to bring back all those kind of functions and processes back into a community-led effort that actually works for people without having to use large infrastructure. So why resist this? And I kind of shifted it from AI to like mega scale computing, which is, you know, cloud is essentially like kind of the precursor for AI in terms of resource usage. And, AI ramps it up by a factor, like a magnitude, whereas like this cloud still is bringing it up. Yeah, so there's like this growth need, right? So like if you want to have better results from your AI, you just gotta more processors, more data, all this kind of stuff. And so data centers, it kind of mirrors the kind of always grow mentality of kind of our economic system, which isn't necessarily all that healthy for anybody. And also there's an aspect of degrowth and decolonialization. So no, again, like the LLMs having the average answer kind of colonializes everybody in a way by enforcing a status quo, a average, a way, a certain way, a single point of view, if you will. And I read a book called The Mechanic and the Luddite recently, which is a really nice book. Um, and they talked about there's a chapter on landlords. So, like cloud is like a landlord. You use a subscription model. You don't actually do the thing yourself. You don't have control either. So you lose control. Obviously, if you're a homeowner, you then gain the ability to have to deal with all the shit. So that's not necessarily a wonderful situation for some people. Some people actually prefer to rent. So that's cool. And there's a link to the mechanical Luddite. Again, like encouraging alternative points of view as opposed to the average. Okay, so how does CFEngine fit with this scheme or this project of decomputing? Okay, well, it is lightweight to build and deploy, and there are a few dependencies. So that's cool. There are other projects, other configuration management systems that are definitely not the case. You don't have to install Python. Not that that's really that big of a deal most of the time, but if you're trying to keep old systems going, maybe you don't want that level of layers. Um, it includes a lot of existing knowledge about Unix systems, so many Unix systems. So hopefully I can find a good example of just how much. Yeah, so here's kind of an overview of all the systems that somebody has at some point added information about to CFEngine. This is a lot. I mean, we got things that are probably not necessarily all that supported anymore. I don't think anybody's actively supporting Cray.
Great.
Um,
So,
Dragonfly, I don't it's interesting. Windows is in here twice, that's fun. Android is in here. That is not really what we support anymore. It's a different kind of Android. We have a video somewhere of demoing settings in Android with CFEngine. Nick and I used CFEngine in Termux, which is more kind of just a generic Unix version, not this kind of integrated into all the settings in Java and whatnot. So, and then also you can see that we have all kinds of kind of specific, look at all this. This is all specific information. So CFEngine in a way is like an abstraction layer on top of all these different unices. And so that has some value. Um, and then, I just did a quick grep through the code base and core, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff, about, for example, OpenBSD. Um, and this grin actually is my way of saying grep recursively in case sensitive and show line numbers. So I called it grin. Kind of like grep is just command and ed, global regex, show the print the lines. Okay, so autonomy is a fundamental aspect of decomputing as well as CFEngine. So if we search for um, autonomy, we get a bunch of results, and they're kind of foundational. It's a foundational concept in CFEngine. This one is particularly interesting, this ITIL, which probably not a lot of people are familiar with. I wasn't. And then I had to scroll way to the top. Where is it? ITIL. Where to go? Help me out. And apparently it's some from the UK, I believe. Anyway, so that's a foundational aspect. So that is shared. Um, and then, if we look at this, how CFEngine works, and we look for autonomy, like it's all over the place. Yeah, autonomy is important. So, and this is something that we even had like a customer ask us recently. Is like, oh, well, if I upgrade the hubs, the things that provide the policy to all the agents, like, will there be a problem with the agents? And, ideally, if you kind of follow the best practices, there will be no problem at all. The only problem is that they won't get policy updates, but they'll still be totally happy by themselves, enforcing the last policy that they got, doing all the work they need to do, and keeping the systems running the way that they should. That's a really cool feature, autonomy. Um, so we also have community resources. So we have build modules, um, all kinds of cool stuff here. If we look at the most recent stuff, we've got cool stuff like the Docker Compose promise type. So you can manage the state of a Docker Compose setup. We got the Surf CFEngine library, which has a bunch of really amazing things to manage services. Pretty cool. So we have a lot of cool stuff there. Um, yeah, so the wide platform support, the low bar to build, and when it's running, it's low resource intensive. That helps lengthen the life of existing hardware and reduce the burden on, purchasing new stuff like that involves mining precious metals and nasty places in Africa and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so
Oh,
you could probably work on a little bit. What?
can you say that again?
The
We
stability.
lost.
So, like when you think of cloud, you think of stability. You think of okay, yeah, okay. I mean, so and as opposed to having your own data center, right? Like hardware goes down in your own data center, you got to jump and start fixing it. Whereas in the cloud, you just kind of say switch, or maybe it even happens without you thinking about it. So I think that CFEngine would be a good tool to kind of bring back that stability framework into lower and lower, smaller and smaller data centers. I think that's a possibility. Okay, so human in the loop. For example, like LLMs in healthcare, probably not a good idea because it lacks context. It doesn't know anything actually. It lacks compassion, understanding, and in a similar way, CFEngine policy is essentially the same kind of thing. A person has to think about what the computer should be doing, and so they can write policy for that. And so that's a good way that we can be a part of setting up these systems. So there's various tools that we have. We have the data-driven approach with CMDB. We have build modules again, and you can write policy. Demo. Okay, so my point is use computers for longer, use like lower power computers, less uh, resource capable computers. So what do I have? I have a Raspberry Pi 4, which arguably is a little powerful. It's running our hub, and I have some hosts bootstrapped to it. Okay, so I've got a Windows 10 laptop that's ancient that I do testing on. I've got this one actually needs a little help. This is my Fairphone. Um, which has, let's see, we can add I'm not sure where the information might be. It's somewhere in here. CPU model might show us a clue. Uh, yeah, the thing's
Qualcomm.
yeah, so Qualcomm. Yeah, that's my Fairphone. Um, I got the Raspberry Pi 4 right there. I got my MacBook Pro, Mac OS getting in here. OpenBSD. So again, wide platform support. And it's
Oh, wait.
yeah, go
Where's your
ahead.
watch? Where's your watch?
My watch is right here.
Okay.
Um, it does run CFEngine, but not the enterprise version. I also have the PowerBook G4 that you gave me from what is it, 2003 or so. Um, that's another possibility. Um, Boy, it's hard to navigate around to all the things. Yeah, so and some of these I'm running community on because we don't have enterprise builds by default. So that's one thing. Yeah, I've got my Raspberry Pi 3, which is a backup server. We don't have 32-bit packages yet, so I don't have stuff there. But the thing that's interesting, if you're interested in using um, CFEngine to kind of see how things are going and keep things going for a while, you know, just out of the box, there's lots of information that like the master files policy grabs for you about your system. So, there's just a lot of information here, like network stuff, all kinds of things. So it gives you a really good basis to start off with to know what's going on. I went over to my PowerBook G4 running OpenBSD and was able to build it, no problem. That was pretty easy. The instructions are here. So we have a nice collection of instructions on how to build for various hardware. And if we scroll down here a bit, we'll see, we've got instructions for Debian, NetBSD, OpenBSD, FreeBSD, OS X. So we have a wide platform support. Um, I also have a Pine phone, which is a it's a cell phone. Which it's this right here, Pine phone. And I'm working on getting the hub running on that in a container. So, it's possible. And then last but not least, I'd like to mention Plan 9, which is my kind of uh, operating system of the future choice because it's small, it's Unix-like, written by the people that wrote Unix. They're kind of like trying to do something better and still going strong as a hobby OS. I talked to some people in the Plan 9 channel about using CFEngine on Plan 9, and they had some really funny comments like they generally avoid configuration files. And this is the quote: "If shit's crashing, fix it." So in other words, like there's no service process watchdogs like we might have, like, oh, like if the service is down, restart it. And they're like, no, just like if the service is down, then fix it. It's pretty funny. It's a different perspective. So that's good. I appreciate that. And also in terms of like managing files, they're like, well, if there's 100 Plan 9 users in an environment, then you've got a file server and you just edit that. You don't write policy to edit it on 100 different users. So systems. So anyway, so my slogan was use CFEngine on your Unix hosts while you migrate your way to Plan 9, a reasonable open source operating system that's simple and knowable. And that's all.
Okay.
And then now Ed will show you that it's time for questions.
Time for questions. So I have a question, I guess, before
Yes.
I'll start first. So
Okay,
what
good.
has been your favorite and most interesting platform to run CFEngine on?
I mean, I thought the watch was pretty cool. I set up I this watch is a Timex Family Connect Senior watch, and I set one of these up for my teenager to give him something that had texting and calling easy. I wrote a little Java app for the home page, but there's like a thing there where it builds up all these logs all the time and then cuts down on the amount of space. So I wrote a little mini policy with a cron job to clear those logs out with CFEngine. So,
Awesome.
and I'm pretty sure I just used Termux and built CFEngine on the watch itself. So, I
Cool.
mean, it took a while maybe. I mean, Auto Tools is not light. I'll give you that. I talked to the Plan 9 people about porting CFEngine, and they're like, yeah, you should probably just write new MK files, which is the MK is the make for Plan 9.
Hmm.
They're opinionated.
Are we gonna see CFEngine on Plan 9?
I mean, I've got a log of what I tried so far to try to build one file in libntech, the smallest file I could find with the least dependencies. And right now I'm stuck on it's got some weird error that I don't understand. So yeah,
Okay. Maybe,
who knows?
maybe.
We'll see. I think it's not super likely, but it might be worth a try.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we got any questions from the crowd.
And as usual, we have the after recording jam session that's possible too, with open floor for any questions and
Yeah.
comments that don't want to be recorded. Cool.
All right. There's nobody here. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you after the show. Don't forget to hang around for some chit chat about whatever you'd like off the record, and we'll see you next time.